Welcome to Ghostcasters Podcast. I'm CG Mosley. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host Adam Boyette. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, Harry. Just getting through the week. Been a busy week so far. Just
You
ready
sound
for
like you're
the weekend,
flustered
a
or
little break.
something.
Yeah, I am kind of flustered. I was telling you, I just keep. I have a. It's an old chair here, and it has a blanket in it. I don't know if you ever had a recliner. It had like a blanket in the seat, and it's
No,
in
I've
there.
never had a recliner that had a blanket in it. What the hell?
Really?
Of course. Yes, Adam, I've got a damn recliner right now that has a blanket in it. You
I'm
just
just
said it.
saying, it
You
sits
said
in
it
it, and
like
I
it's
sit
like a.
on it.
You said it
And
like
I'm
that's the unicorn of furniture or something. A recliner that
no,
has a blanket in it.
I know it's a real common thing. That's what I'm saying. And it just I sit down on the blanket and I try to move it, and it's just uncomfortable, and it's just I'm trying to get settled. So
All right. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. But anyway, it's good to be together again. Talk about another haunting. I think this is a very interesting one for the Playboy Mansion. Were you excited about this when I put it in our Google Doc file and you saw Playboy Mansion? Did you get all excited?
you want to know the first thing I thought? I
I
said,
can't
"Is Hugh
wait.
Hefner? Is Hugh Hefner dead?" That was my first thought. I was like, I can't remember if he died or not.
You couldn't remember he was still alive?
I couldn't remember. He's dead.
Yes, he's very much dead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't remember if he's alive or dead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I knew that before I typed anything up on this. Hugh Hefner's been dead for a few years now.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember. You know how certain people you're like, are they still alive? He's one of them for me. Like, is Hugh Hefner dead or alive? But yeah, I was interested. As children of the '80s and early '90s, the Playboy Mansion was probably, especially male. Playboy Mansion was probably a big thing in our life. Like, hey, is this something that we're going to aspire to? Are we ever going to be able to get to the Playboy Mansion or whatever? It don't hold the same mystique these days, but I think for people of our age, it was a very, very like almost like a dream. So
Yes, I know what you mean. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Let's not spoil too much about the Playboy Mansion. We'll start as always with a little bit of ghost news. So I'll go first. I can't remember if I normally let you go first or if I go first, but
we switch it up.
I think I'll go first tonight. So I've got a story. Believe it or not, it's from overseas, Scotland actually. There's this guy named Tony Ferguson, and we've actually covered this guy before. Um, I'm just gonna say it straight up front. I don't think there's any risk of this guy coming after us or anything. I think this guy's a quack. I just I do. I don't think that he's legit. I think he's kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But uh, anyway, the headline, and by the way, it was from a website that I've never heard of before called the Irish Star. Did you happen to look at it?
The newspaper or the article?
The web article.
Yeah, I looked at the article. Yeah,
It's a lot of green on there, which is the
yeah,
Irish
yeah, yeah,
Star.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's the Irish Star.
So anyway, I thought it was pretty cool when I looked at the Irish Star and I saw all the green. But all right, so here's what the headline says. It says Ghost demands people get back as paranormal investigator approaches an eerie dungeon. So there's a ghost hunter. Again, his name was Tony Ferguson, and he shared a scary moment when he heard a ghost supposedly shout, "Get back," at him in an old UK castle. Tony Ferguson was exploring Kenmure Castle in Scotland when he had the chilling encounter. He said he heard several voices and even got a response to a joke that he made. Tony, who is also apparently a personal trainer, he's been investigating paranormal activities for years. He said, quote, "I mentioned about it all being overgrown and a female responded in agreement. Um, and there was a hole, I pointed out." Excuse me, as I went near this, a male voice says, "Get back." Overall, there were many unexplained things he said. Um, Now, I want to tell you, I watched the video, Adam. I watched it. And you know what I thought about it? I mean, it's like I said a minute ago. This guy's a quack. He's cuckoo because
Okay.
I watched the video repeatedly. And I don't hear anything. I did hear like the what I said there about he heard a woman's voice or something. I did hear that, but hell, it was just the sound of the wind. It wasn't it wasn't a woman's voice. So frankly, when I read all this, I almost said, you know what, I'm not even going to cover this. But it's so freaking stupid. Um, I don't know. We didn't. It's not like we had an abundance of ghost news anyway. So I
Yeah.
thought, what the hell? We'll give Tony Ferguson a little bit of airtime.
Did you look at the second part of the story about the
Um,
boy in Colombia?
no, because I didn't think that had anything to do with this story.
It didn't have anything to do with that, but it was in the story. I just looked at it.
Well,
It just said they called.
why would I cover something that had nothing to do with my particular news
It
story?
was in the same story. I just wondered if you looked at it. It just said it was part of the same story. For some reason or not, this something that's something I notice a lot there. There's two semi-related incidents that happen. They put them together and put them in the same story in these like the Daily Star and Daily Mail and all those type of UK type newspapers. Will put two semi-related stories in the same story. So
Oh,
but it was just a story about a young boy and how they saw him. He disappeared from camera. I never saw the video for that particular story, either one of them.
well,
So
I just read Tony Sturgis, Tony Ferguson's part, and just kind of ended there. Probably because I felt my IQ dropping. All right, so what do you have? What kind of story do you have?
well, speaking of IQ dropping, my title of my story is "Real Estate Agent Learns Her New Listing is Haunted When Ghost Appears in Promotional Video." This comes to us. It is from Den Garden,
The Den
and it's in
Garden.
home. Yeah, that's the name of the website, and it's in the home and garden news section. So basically, it starts off with the real estate market may be hot right now, but that doesn't mean there aren't things to consider when you sell a house. Maybe you should get rid of your personal photos or declutter your closets. Perhaps it's time to think about repainting your walls a bright neutral color. Now, you have sold a house before. I have never sold a house before. This is the only house I've ever bought and lived in
Dude, I've
personally.
sold three houses.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're much more apt to this there. Now, when you sold them, you didn't have to go out and stage them or anything, did you?
No.
Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah. Just
that
get
is
you a drink.
the.
Just get you a drink right in the middle of the
I'm
show.
sorry, man. My
That's okay.
voice is killing me.
All right.
Just talking stuff is not good for me. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry.
Anyway,
You have to
so
talk. I'm sorry.
the story goes on. It talks about this, and it goes and shows us a TikTok video. Now, this is the first problem I have with the story. So when I get to it, the story that they show is not from the actual realtor herself. She didn't post it. Did you notice the name of the TikTok channel this came from?
No.
It's called Nightmare Fuel. All right. So when I click on the video and it takes me to TikTok, the first thing it takes me to is not even this video. It takes me to a video of a serviceman in Japan somewhere, and he is having an argument with a ghost and telling him to do this stuff again. He calls the ghost a female body part. He says, You scary, you won't do nothing. He's sitting there taking videos. All of a sudden, the door pops up. He said, "Oh, you will be bad now." So I had to watch that video.
What
And
female body
finally,
part?
I'm not going to say it. We're going to kind of keep it PG-13. But anyway, so he goes through and he says all this stuff. But the actual part, when I finally got to watch the one about the real estate agent, the tagline says the real estate agent says she got more than she bargained for when setting up for a recent home showing. So when you proceed to watch the video, what you have is you have her standing in front of her phone that's on a tripod, and all of a sudden one of the doors behind her open up, and she kind of says, she walks around, she pulls the phone off the tripod, she walks around the house, she says, "I'm not scared, I'm not scared, I'm not scared." She walks around, and I keep expecting to see like a ghost pop out of one of these, different things, but she finally goes up to another door and it starts to close on itself. And what do you think she's doing? Somebody who's not scared, she sits there and she takes off and runs out the house.
Well,
Uh,
well, yeah. Didn't like a smoke alarm or something go off, and then the smoke
That's
alarm?
what it was.
Yeah,
That's what it was. The smoke alarm went off, and then it fell as she walked into the room.
which would have
Um,
freaked me. Now, in all honesty, if it was legit and it was really a ghost doing that, that would freak me out. We've been in some situations before where there was some spooky stuff, scary stuff going on, and it didn't scare me. But now, if a ghost picks up an object and throws it at me,
Well, it fell off the ceiling, is what it was. She walks into the door frame and it falls in a different room. But they go back and they show, and I actually noticed this before they ever showed it on there. I don't know if it's like an after effect added to it or whatever, but there's a picture. We were talking about staging her house. She has like a set. You ever seen people that put pictures real close together on a wall and kind of stack them up and down the
yes,
wall instead of spreading them out? So it's done like that. And basically, she gets beside the picture, and as that door opens, it says the face on the picture kind of turns. And I saw it when the door opened on the second video when they were slowing it down, but then they actually tried to zoom in on it, and I couldn't see it as well as I could before.
hmm.
However, there were some other interesting thing in the article as well. So one of the things they talked about is how the house is staged. She said, "I don't think this is a very good way to stage a house. The house didn't look to be clean. They talked about the scuff marks on the wall and everything like that." And so they end up and they say, in short, is this really a real estate agent at all, or just someone posting a spooky video for social media clout? However, the rest of the article was much more interesting to me than this actual part here. And I don't know if you went through and read this part here. Do you realize that there are only 4 states in the nation where you have to mention if there's ever been paranormal activity when it comes to discussing real estate?
I swear, it seems
Um,
like we've talked about this before. Like this came up
I
at one point.
I
It's
don't know if it has. We may have mentioned before because one of them has to do. And let me just read this part here. In Michigan, Minnesota, the laws actually protects the seller, saying they're not required to disclose any evidence or rumors of paranormal activity. In New Jersey, you're only required to share this information when the buyer asks about it. However, what is one of the biggest hauntings we've talked about on this show? What just think about the hauntings we talked about,
God,
famous
Adam.
ones that
We have
they
talked
made
about
movies about it.
Amityville. I mean, is that the big one you're talking about?
Yeah, what state is it in?
That's New York, isn't it?
Okay. In New York, however, a homeowner can get in trouble if they create or maintain a reputation of a haunted property, such as contributed publications or media about the possibility of the place being haunted. A seller can back out scot free if they discover the home has been setting for one of these popular ghost hunting programs. So in New York, they actually make rules up where if you disclose that and you don't disclose it or you try to build up that, you can actually get in trouble there.
Hmm.
Um, so they go through and they talk more thing about, they talk about like the Conjuring House and Lizzie Borden's and everything like that. And they just talk about how sometimes those houses do sell for more because people are intrigued about the history of it and everything like that. But like I said, I thought that part was more interesting than the actual ghost haunting we saw. So I thought that part was pretty interesting there that they talked about the ghost laws and stuff like
So
that
to
for those different states.
go back to the realtor. Are you saying that the video that you saw you don't believe was posted by the realtor that reported this?
No, 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 no.
So that's
I,
not
well,
her or it is her? I'm confused.
I is it actually a realtor? Is what I'm saying.
Okay,
Is
so
it
you
actually
think
a
the whole
realtor?
thing's
Or,
a hoax? Okay, all right.
yeah, and the article kind of says that as well. They couldn't tell. That's what they were saying because when you look through a house, if they were trying to sell the house or whatever, you would think that they're going through and they would have it set up nice. But you have those little picture frames right there, and then you had like her little table there, and the rest of the house was empty. And they talked about how the house wasn't clean. So I don't know if this is actually haunting
Hmm.
or this is like somebody trying to get clout by saying they're in a haunted house.
I got you. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for ghost news this week. I guess it's time for your terrifying tidbit. Do you have one for us? Another
I do.
broken-hearted ghost?
Absolutely. Actually, that is exactly what we're talking about. So this week we're talking about a place called Emily's Bridge. So, like I said, I got this from a
I've
the
heard of
Travel
this.
Channel doc. You have heard
I
of it?
have heard of this, but go on.
Okay. So legend has a girl named Emily was in love with a boy her parents didn't approve of. They arranged to meet at Goldbrook Bridge to run away together. When he didn't show up, she took the rope she had used to tie together her sack of belongings and hung herself from the bridge. People reported hearing banging footsteps, a girl screaming, and ropes tightening. Now, this is in Stowe, Stowe, Vermont. Um, it's a covered bridge. It has the charm and mystery about much other covered bridges that New England is famous for.
Hmm.
Uh, I know you probably know what a covered bridge is, but for listeners not sure,
Yeah,
covered bridges is like
I've actually seen the picture of this bridge. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like that movie. I always think of that movie, The Bridges of Madison County, with
yeah, that's where I was going to go
Clint
to.
Eastwood
Yeah,
and
that's
Meryl Streep, or
it,
the bridge at the beginning of Beetlejuice when they crash and go off into the water. You remember?
Yes, yes, I do. The university I went to, University of West Alabama, one of their famous things, they have an old covered bridge actually on campus that they brought in and set up there. So covered bridges are just covered bridges, is basically what they are. They're bridges that have some type of top on them, some type of side on them. So they're there and covered. It's not like an open bridge that we typically see on the roads today
There
or like
are
old.
there are actually a couple of them in Mississippi that I've come
Yeah.
across. We've got a few, and that may be true for all states, but I think, like you said, they seem to be a lot more popular up north.
Yeah, and I don't know why that is. Maybe just something to do with the weather or something there. But anyway, the bridges there are they're really famous up there. And this one they call it Emily's Bridge in Stowe, Vermont. It's over 50 foot long. It's covered with dark wood that the elements haven't been merciful on. Around the time the bridge was built, the dark wood was still new, smelling of fresh pine. It creaked every time a horse-drawn wagon crossed it. Young Emily went there to elope with her love. It goes there, it talks about it. Today, stories started making rounds right after she died. Not the sweet and sorrowful Emily that we learned about, but a vengeful Emily full of wrath and apparently long nails. She was understandably upset at being jilted. Anyone would be, but for Emily to take it out on passing cars, some would consider that over dramatic. That's Emily. She started slashing cars passing over the bridge, leaving scars not unlike those left by Wolverine of X-Men fame. Even pedestrians are not safe. The marks on their back bear witness to her fury, which hadn't abated after all these years. When they talk about modern sightings, she tells stories about recent hauntings and sightings of poor Emily still go about to this tortured business. What is surprising that she hadn't thought about waylaying the guy who scorned her and giving him a piece of her mind along with some scratches.
So you're saying
So,
she claws the backs of pedestrians?
yes, anybody that crosses the bridge, she supposedly takes her nail and goes through and slashes either the car or slashes their backs or along those lines.
Wow,
So
that's scary.
yeah, so that's Emily's Bridge. That's from in Stodom, Vermont. So you have that part there, and like I said, next week we will probably finish up with February. It's going to be unusual next week when we cover. You know what? We usually, we mentioned to our listeners before, we usually record these on Wednesdays night. What's going to be unusual about next
Is
Wednesday?
it the 29th?
It is the 29th. So that's unusual because we usually don't. Wait, no, I take that back. Next Wednesday is the 28th.
I was
The
thinking,
20.
I was thinking Thursday was the 29th, but I thought I was
Yeah,
wrong when you
I
said that.
was wrong. I'm wrong. Yeah, that the week we recorded on Thursday kind of threw me off. So yeah, but that's right. Yeah, next week will be the 28th, not the 29th. So when this comes out, it'll be unusual because usually that would be the 1st of March when we release it, but it will be the 29th of February when it comes out.
Okay, so that's it for your terrifying tidbit for the week.
That is.
All right, well, I guess it's time to get into this week's case. We're covering, as we said at the beginning of the show, the Playboy Mansion, Adam's dream house. Adam, I know you spent your childhood wishing that you've already said this now, so don't go back on what you said. You spent your whole childhood wanting to visit this house, so I'm
Yeah.
sure you know a lot about it. So here's your chance to tell us all about the Playboy Mansion before we get into the haunting. What can you tell us?
Well, before we get into it, when's the first time you remember seeing the Playboy Mansion?
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Okay. All right. I have seen that movie, and I forgot it's even in there. I really did. I have seen that movie before. I noticed you probably know a new one's coming out soon. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My first real thing. Do you remember E Network? I don't even know if it's still
Yes.
on today. Okay, they used to do like live from the Playboy Mansion. They would show like all the Playboy bunnies running around and Hugh Hefner there and everything like that. That's
They would
my
just
first
wait a minute.
real.
They would show the Playboy bunnies running around.
Yeah, like just around the area, not actually running around, but just walking around in their skimpy
Well,
clothes and
I'm
lingerie.
just picturing Hugh Hefner standing in the driveway, and there's Playboy bunnies running around the yard.
Well, that's kind of how it was. It absolutely was. But they're like tonight's entertainment news. I can't remember the show. It's like Entertainment Tonight. And it's not Entertainment Tonight. It was wherever the E News Daily
Yeah,
Show
and
was.
and the E network is still a thing. It's
Okay.
still going.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. I don't watch it anymore. So I remember, was it Talk Soup that was on there that I think, uh,
Greg
what is
Kinnear
it?
started it.
Greg Kinnear, that's
John
it.
Hens.
And then
Okay,
John
we're chasing
Henson.
rabbits, Adam. Let's get back to the
All
Playboy Mansion.
right. Anyway, that was my first experience with it. And MTV used to have things on it. So that's my experience with it. So that's what I'm saying. When I was growing up, that's where I saw cool people hanging out, parties all the time. So I figured, hey, that would be a cool place to go. But the actual mansion itself is 21,987 square feet, which is very, very big. It's called a Gothic Tudor type style, and it sits on 5.3 acres. So the house is really, really big, sits on a lot of land for the area that's in. So the Playboy Company acquired the mansion in 1971 for 1.1 million.
Wow, that
Uh,
seems
they
really cheap.
yes, for
Today it
such a big
does for
house.
sure.
But we talk about like inflation and how much stuff has grown. We'll talk about how much this house is sold for in a little bit. But just remember, it was originally bought for 1.1 million from Louis D. Statham. He was an engineer, inventor, and chess aficionado.
He was
Uh,
related to
early
Jason Statham.
is he okay?
No, I
You
just
say
made that
so.
up. I made
You
that
say
up.
so, bud. All right. So in early 2011, it was valued at $54 million.
Wow.
So almost, 50 times is what it's originally sold for. It sits close to the northwest corner of Los Angeles Country Club near the University of California, Los Angeles, in the Bel Air Country Club. 15 million has been invested in renovation and expansion. The mansion has 29 rooms, including a wine cellar with a Prohibition era secret door, which is a door that kind of swings open into it, a screening room with a built in pipe organ. That's probably something that
Wow.
Hugh Hefner put in from back in his childhood. He probably had pipe organs in his movie theaters back in the day. Um, had a game room, 3 zoo and aviary buildings, a related pet cemetery, had a tennis and basketball court, a waterfall, and a swimming pool area. That swimming pool area had a patio, barbecue area, a grotto, and a basic gym with sauna below the bathhouse. So, if you know stuff about it, what's the most famous thing at the Playboy Mansion?
Adam, I don't know a lot about it, so I don't know what.
You never heard about the Playboy Grotto, and like that was a real famous place where
Adam,
people would
I
go
did
and.
not grow up infatuated with it like you. I have no idea. I swear I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know what the grotto is?
No.
Okay, so it talks about the waterfall. The grotto is the place that is behind the waterfall. So you have a waterfall over the pool, and you go back behind the waterfall, and it's like a little area inside, like the waterfall area there where people go. That's the grotto.
Have you been
So
there? Have you snuck onto this property?
I have not, never been to California before.
Okay. Okay.
So, but I just that's like I said, like when you would watch MTV Cribs or you would watch E, they would talk about the grotto and
So
like who's in the grotto.
anytime a special come on about the Playboy Mansion, you recorded it.
Yes, I did. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you
No,
really?
I just remember watching the MTV Cribs episode of it. I remember it being on E Nightly or whatever that was called, and just different things throughout the years. And yes, I've seen them. I used to watch. It used to be like I had to watch E every night, and I had to watch this every night. I had to watch every episode of MTV Cribs. That's back before like DVR and stuff like that, where you could record something, and watch it later.
Sure.
So our lives used to be, like I remember growing up, every Thursday night I had to be at home because I wanted to watch Seinfeld and Friends and everything like that growing up. It's not like that anymore. I can watch the big new thing coming out now is Avatar, the new Airbender. Watch it whenever I want to,
Mm-hmm.
so it's life is different now. But anyway, the landscaping, they do have a large koi pond there that has an artificial stream, a small citrus orchard, and two well-established forests of tree ferns and redwoods. The west ring was originally a servants' wing, housed the editorial offices of Playboys. The main Avery building, which is Bird Buildings, is the original greenhouse with four guest rooms adjoining. The master suite occupies several rooms on the second and third floors in the most heavily renovated area of the mansion proper, with the extensive carved oak decor dating back to the 1970s. Otherwise, the mansion proper has maintained its original Gothic revival furnishings for the most part. The pipe organ was essentially restored in the last decade, and there's also an outdoor kitchen to serve party events. Like we said earlier, they bought the mansion in 1971 there, and in 2006, his girlfriend, former girlfriend, um, Isabella St. James, wrote a memoir called Bunny Tales. She said at the time that everything in the house was in need of renovation. Everything in the mansion felt old and stale, and Archie, the house dog, would regularly relieve himself on one of the hallway curtains, adding a powerful whiff for urine to the general scent of decay.
Wow.
So I don't know if you've ever had a pet that's made an accident in the house or whatever. It does
Never.
stink. So yes, you
Never
have.
had a
I've been.
pet that's pissed in the house, and never once had that happen.
She also goes on to say she observed each bedroom had mismatched and random pieces of furniture, as if someone had gone to the charity shop and bought the basics for each room. Mattresses on my beds were disgusting, old, worn, and stained.
I
I bet they
bet.
were,
I bet.
and the sheets were past their best too. In January 2016, the Playboy Mansion was listed for sale by Playboy Enterprises for the asking price of $200 million.
My goodness.
So they listed it for 54 and 96, and went up from 1.1 all the way up to 200 million. However, they did put some conditions to the sale. The condition was that Heifer be allowed to continue to rent the mansion for life. In August of 2016, though, it was bought for 100 million by Darren, and I cannot say his name, Metropolis.
Huh?
Metropolis, all right, but Metropolis, I
Huh?
can't say his name.
I think
He
that's
was
right, actually.
okay. He was the co-owner of Hostess Brands, which are known for such treats as the Ho Ho. So, thought that'd be an interesting little thing to
What?
put in there. Yeah, the Ho Ho. You know what the Ho Hos are?
Yes, I know the ho hos are, but it's just the parallel there.
Yeah, I know. That's the reason I brought it up. So anyway, he's the principal in the investment firm. He intends to renovate and restore the mansion to its original form. In March of 2018, the owner of the Playboy Mansion, who is Darren Metropoulos, entered into an agreement with the city of Los Angeles, which permanently protects the mansion from demolition. The agreement between him and the city, referred to between the parties as a permanent protection covenant, is binding on all future owners. The agreement protects the mansion from demolition, but still allows Metropolis to make modernizations and substantial renovations and repairs to the property following a long period of deferred maintenance while under Playboy ownership. Under the permanent protection covenant, he has further agreed to restore the house and facade to its original grandeur.
So you're telling me the Playboy Mansion will stand for all time? It's never going anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. It's never going to be torn down. They have to keep it up. And this is one of these houses that's probably been listed now as, like, not a national historic place, but something along those lines. It's part of Hollywood culture. You know, those Playboy Mansion parties were famous back in the 80s and 90s, but people would show up. So I think that this is just one of those big things there that's almost like the Hearst Estate, the Hearst Mansion, if you've heard of it before, Amityville House, those type of houses. This has built that following and that cult following there.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about the history and a lot about the estate itself, which, by the way, I thought was interesting that you said that it had its own little forest there, complete with redwoods in it. I had no idea. Um,
Yeah, I don't think they're full grown though. I don't think they're the redwoods that you think of. Like they're not those huge
Again,
redwoods.
Adam, how would you know this? Have you been there?
No, I don't. I'm just saying, but
Okay.
if you look at the picture, you can see the trees behind the house that are standing up above it. You know, you think of redwoods, you're thinking of like 300-foot trees, but I don't think that's what this
You're
is.
just all the detail that you're giving me leads me to believe that maybe you've snuck onto this property before, because you seem to know a lot about it. All right, so moving on to the haunting. But what I was getting at a second ago was all the stuff you talked about. There was nothing there that would lead me to believe that the place would be haunted today. In fact, the only thing that would make me think there was any possibility of it being haunted would be, that Hugh Hefner is now dead and maybe he haunts the place. But I've never heard of anything about it being haunted until recently. So I've dug up this old New York Post article, and it was from just a few years ago. And former Playboy bunny Bridget Marquardt, she swears that the mansion is haunted. So the article that I read, it references some quotes that she made on a podcast called Dark House. And she says, quote, "There are ghost stories dating back decades from that mansion. I saw a woman appear in my bedroom." She went on to explain, quote, "My sister, myself, and my friend Stacy were all sitting on my bed. We were talking, having a glass of wine, and the TV was on. All of a sudden, out of the corner of all our eyes, we saw a woman standing in my closet. Of course, when I turned to look at it straight on, it was gone. So, despite this brief sighting, she really remembered the details of what she saw. She went on to say, and this we're quoting again, she had black, long, kind of stringy hair, and she was pale and very skinny. She was wearing a white t-shirt that was way too big on her and black acid washed jeans. She was just standing there staring at me." End quote. So although she believed with 100% certainty she had just seen a ghost, Marquardt denied being afraid of it. She claimed, of all things, that she actually knew who this person was. So I guess it wasn't a lost Playboy bunny in the house. She went on to explain exactly who it was. She said, quote, "Before I lived in the mansion, I was invited to test for Playmate, and I met this woman who was a social secretary at the mansion. She was super friendly. She was kind of like the house mom. She knew all the pets and she knew all about all the girls. She was just amazing." So Marquardt left the mansion for a few years, and when she returned, she discovered that that nice lady she had met had actually passed away from cancer. She said, quote, "I'm pretty sure it was her who was standing there, and I think she came to see the new addition to the mansion, the new pet that was there, which the new pet, I guess, Wednesday was the dog. Um,
Yes.
According to Marquardt, this wasn't just an isolated incident either. She said doors would often slam or lock on their own. She said people would often feel weird vibes when they entered the property. I bet they did when they went in this place. I would feel weird vibes when I went into the Playboy Mansion. She even recalled a story that Hugh Hefner had told her about the previous owners. Now, the previous owners were apparently a gentleman named Mr. Arthur Letts and his wife. I don't have her name, but anyway, Hugh had told Marquardt at one point that he said that Mrs. Letts had either been pushed, she fell, or she jumped. Something happened. She fell to her death inside the property onto the marble floor. Now, Marquardt believes that her spirit haunts the grounds also, in addition to the woman that she'd met years earlier there. And for the record, Hugh Hefner is on the record saying that he absolutely does not believe in the paranormal, at least when he was still alive. He doesn't believe in that kind of stuff at all. Now, the spookiness that she talked about, it doesn't stop with Marquardt. She also revealed that she'd been visited by Hefner's spirit via a dream. She went on to explain, one night I had this dream, and it was not long after Hef had died. This dream was like nothing I ever had before. It was so real. In the dream, she'd driven up to the mansion and entered. Once inside, the place seemed completely unoccupied. She said, quote, I could tell the house was abandoned and he was gone, but yet I was there to see him. She said the house was dark and she could hear spooky sounds. And she mentioned hearing really old 1940s music playing throughout the house. And then she went on to say, quote, and then all of a sudden Hef comes down the stairs and he threw his arms out. He gave me what we call his big laugh, like this big cackle that he did. He said, my darling. And he puts his arms around me and I felt the hug. I could feel his smoking jacket, or I could smell his smoking jacket. I could smell his cologne. It was so real. I literally felt like I said goodbye to him and he was good. And by the way, it's um, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Marquardt, she was not allowed, or she did, I think she was not allowed to attend Hef's funeral. So she never felt like she got a proper goodbye. So she said he visited her in a dream. And I've heard of that happening with other people.
And this did not, she was not at the house while she had this dream, right? It just
No,
happened at the house.
no, she was not at the house when she had the dream. She was somewhere else. But the dream took place in the Playboy Mansion. Now, in case you're wondering, it wasn't just Marquardt that claimed the mansion was haunted. Holly Madison has also come forward and said that she'd heard talk about it being haunted for years. She said there were all kinds of urban legends about it. She mentioned something about trafficking tunnels, which is I don't know. That's a little unsettling when you consider everything that went on at the Playboy
Well, I
Mansion.
think I think Holly Madison. I can't remember. There was another one with her at the time. I think they were like Hef's girlfriends or fiancées or something like that. And I think
Kendra,
since Kendra, okay, I think once they have left and got out of there, they kind of said that there were a lot of things in there that were not quite as savory or good as they looked at the time.
yeah. Well, she said that she'd heard in the early 1970s that the neighbors in the community, or right there in the neighborhood, they literally referred to that mansion as the haunted house. So apparently, the haunted goings on there, apparently, according to Holly Madison, started long before Hugh Hefner ever got there. Uh, Holly also claims to have seen a ghost herself. She said that once, while she was in the basement gym, she saw a woman come out of the bathroom and cross in front of her and out of her line of vision. She said the woman was wearing a hot pink sports bra and black workout pants. She figured it was a playmate there to do photo tests. So Holly Madison walked around the corner to see where the woman went, and she saw another door. She opened that door and found out it was nothing more than a closet. So she swears there was nowhere else for the woman that she'd seen to go. She couldn't, there was no way, according to her, that the woman could have exited the building without passing her again. She claimed that this woman that she saw that day, she never ever saw that woman's face again. Didn't know who she was or why she was there. And another weird thing that she claims happens a lot, she said there's a toilet there that would frequently flush all on its own, which is a weird thing if you're a ghost, that's your go to. I'm just going to flush this toilet a few times a week. Now, I didn't know if you knew this, but Holly Madison, would know a little bit about hauntings and ghosts because her boyfriend, at least at the time of this episode that we're recording, is none other than Zach uh, Bagans or Bagans. I never know how to say this guy's name.
I
Uh,
think it's Bagans.
the Ghost Adventures TV show host. Did you know she was with him?
I did not.
That's weird because we've talked about that guy before.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, in the season one, episode 10 of that show, The Girls Next Door, that Adam probably watched all the time, it was
Never
titled,
watched it once.
there was an episode titled Ghost Busted, and Marquardt hires a ghost investigator and a medium to come do a seance in the mansion. The investigator found high levels of energy in various parts of the house, and he got the highest readings in Marquardt's room. And I have a clip. Listen to this clip from this particular episode, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh my God. Wow.
What'd you get?
Wow. The biggest reading so far.
What is it?
It was amazing. It was 1,045.
Ooh, I chills.
Whoa. They were like all over the place saying, oh my God, the energy's hot. The energy's really high right here. So, you know, I just took that shit and I just tried to make it fun.
Yeah.
He said he got the highest readings in the whole house in Marquardt's bedroom. What do you make of that?
Probably, I mean, why? But the fact that she's able to say that she experienced that, that's probably lines up with that point. But I don't know why there's a specific reason that there happened in that room. Maybe because, you know, I don't know. But is there anything special to that room?
Not to my knowledge, Adam. You've been there. You tell me.
I've never been there. I don't know. Like you said, you asked me about the Girls Next Door. I've never even watched that show. I just saw that when it came out. And funny enough, do you know what channel I think that came out on?
It was on E.
Yes.
Yes, I know it was. Would say. I mean, they did a lot of those weird celebrity reality shows. That's not that far fetched, but it is. Yeah, we were talking about E earlier.
Yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't just Marquardt and Madison that experienced things there. And before I explain this part, I guess I need to say this. For whatever reason, I don't know what the reason was, but Hugh Hefner, he pretty much forbid them from talking to staff members or having any kind of relations with the staff there. He wouldn't allow it. So I said that to say this. Staff members have since come forward and said that there were some haunted things that went on there as well. During their time there, it's not like they were exchanging stories with Holly Madison and Bridget Marquardt. But it did come out years later that lots of staff members that worked in the mansion, they had some ghost stories of their own. So many housekeepers just refused to go into the game room, for example, because apparently the games would turn on by themselves, or there was a door that would slam shut on its own in there. And then once the jukebox that was in there, it fired up on its own, just blaring music loudly. It got so bad that the housekeepers would insist on having a member of security accompany them to that game room anytime they had to go in there. They just refused to go in there alone. Now, there was a gentleman named Brian Olay, who was the guest services manager at the mansion for 2 decades, and he said he'd heard from housekeepers and butlers all the time about paranormal stuff that occurred in that mansion. They'd report hearing footsteps in the hallways and weird presences around them. In one instance, Olay was waiting on some Playboy executives to conclude a meeting they were having in the library. When they left, that meeting concluded, he went to clean the room, just something common that he would do after meetings, and he found that the door into the library was locked. He had security come up with some keys. He tried his keys. They tried their keys. They could not get this door to open. So they were so confused by this, Olay left, and he went to see if he could find if any of the executives were still around. He was going to ask them to confirm which door that they actually left through. Apparently, there was more than one door, and he was trying to figure out what was wrong with his front door. When they returned to the library later on, the door was suddenly open 2 inches, and this absolutely freaked him out. So lots of paranormal stuff reported not only by Playboy Playmates that were there, but also some of the staff that were there. Now, again, I feel compelled to mention this again. Hugh Hefner never believed it. He didn't think the place was haunted. He never, I guess, experienced anything. I mean, he experienced a lot of things there, but he did not experience anything. He did not experience anything paranormal. Or if he did, he never talked about it. And to my knowledge, I mean, if you think anybody's going to haunt that damn place, it would be him after
Absolutely.
after he died. And there's been nothing about that, no reportings at all about Hugh. Just this stuff that went on apparently when Hugh lived there. So, what do you make of the haunting of the Playboy Mansion?
Old building, lots of history, lots of people in and out of it. Some, with the lets, if that stuff is true, some type of tragic industry there, ending there. I want to say one thing we didn't mention. I think there have been a lot of people that have OD'd at parties there. And then that just don't go into the party. I know there's several playmates that have gone on to pass on. Probably most famous. What's the most famous playmate that you can think of that died?
That died in the mansion?
No, not in the mansion.
Oh,
Just
well, then
died in general.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Uh, I was the other day. Do you know who the comedian Ralphie May is?
Yes.
He was telling a story that he had to go to a gig, and he got there and they said, "Hey, your room is not available, but said we're going to upgrade you for free." He said, well, "Okay." And this was at the Hard Rock in Seminole, Florida. Do you know what happened there?
No.
That's where Anna Nicole OD'd at, was at that hotel. And that's the room they put him in, was the room that she OD'd in.
Wow.
Uh, so, he was saying the funny thing, he goes there, well, I know if it's a ghost, she can't act, so it's not going to be scary or whatever. So, anyway, that Anna Nicole Smith, why the story is, wide and ranging from there, but her life, due to her drug addictions and stuff like that, was taken too soon. So I think there's a lot of history there. So I can see it being haunted. I really can. And I think a lot of it has to do with the type of situation it was. I just think places like we don't hear a whole lot about like Disney World being haunted, but I bet there's going to be stories one day about Disney World being haunted. I bet there's already stories out there about it being haunted. Or Disneyland or any of those things of those places there, where there's so many people there, not comparing the two. I guess you could say the Playboy Mansion is a Disneyland for a certain type of people. But
It was for Hugh.
Yeah, absolutely. He got to ride the Matterhorn a lot. The Magic or Space Mountain.
Yeah, he did. He sure did. Now
So
the
anyway,
house, by the way, because we never talked about it earlier, the house was actually built in 1927, so it's not even quite 100 years old at the time of this recording. It's like what, 97,
that's right.
something, 96, 97 years. Well, 97. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's an old place, but it's not even quite 100 years old yet. Now I did try to look it up and see if anybody had ever died in that mansion. And honestly, I don't see where anybody ever did except Hugh Hefner. He died in the
Yeah.
mansion. But I don't see
Well,
where there lots of Playboys playmates did die over the years of overdoses and things. And frankly, it's all speculation, I guess, rumors. But I think that drug use was not really frowned upon with Hef. I think he was okay with it.
but I don't think he used drugs. I don't
Oh, I'm
think
sure
he was a
he
drug
used
user.
one blue pill. I'm sure that he used, but
I'm
other
sure, but
there there was
uh, you know,
recreational drug. Well, I guess that is a recreational drug.
for him it was.
Right.
It may have been medically necessary, but anyway,
But
I
anyway,
don't know.
there were lots of untimely deaths with women that lived there, but I don't think any of them actually died in the house, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, usually at this point, I go on and I explain our rating scale for our house, as for our hauntings. So our rating scale is a 1 to 5 scale, and we'll start with 5 this week. And then a 5, that means we fully believe the place is haunted. We believe the stories that the people are telling is true, that there's lots of things, there's lots of pictures of it, lots of things like that kind of make us say there's no way this place couldn't be haunted. A 4 is there's not enough reasonable doubt to say it's not haunted. This is when we have a situation where the people actually go through and kind of they show a lot of things, but there's some things there kind of make us question. But we're just saying there's not enough for us to say it's not haunted. A 3 is not enough intel to make a good decision. Basically, at that point, what we have is that we have some things that point to it, some things that point to it not being there. So a 3 is not enough intel. Then 2 is reasonable doubt. That means we have reasonable doubt if the place is actually haunted. There's lots of stories, or maybe just one story that's really strong, but there's questions about them, how this could have happened. Kind of like when I talked to you about the TikTok video. Like I could easily see that just being something somebody was trying to do for clout there. And one is that we don't believe at all. We don't believe the place is haunted. We believe you could go there and nothing would happen to you or anything like that. So when I rate this one, I'm giving this one a 2. I do think there's a potential chance for the place to be haunted. I do think there are certain things that we probably need to just, that, or if you were going there, that you could probably look at and possibly see things being haunted, maybe see some of the things that we talked about. But I just don't know if there's reliable narrators coming from this house. I don't know if there's don't laugh at that. I think there's some questions about the stuff that they've seen. And I just think that there's just not a whole lot of the history of the death and stuff like that. So I'm giving this one a 2. How about you, CG?
Man, I struggle with this one. I really do. I mean, I want to, if there's anything that I want to have belief in, it's, big breasted blonde chicks that used to live in the Playboy Mansion. But
big breasted blonde chick ghost.
or the ghost, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love
you
to
want one of them to get slimed by one of them.
Right. I guess, I'm going to go with what I originally thought because I don't want what you said to sway me. So I'm going to go with a 4 because I think the reason what tipped me to a 4 is that there were staff members that also claimed that things happened there. Now, if it was just Playboy Playmates saying all that stuff happened, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably go lower. But since there were staff members that worked there and say that they experienced some weird things as well, I want to go 4. Now, if you average our scores together, that comes out to be a 3, which means we don't think that this place is legitimately haunted. It has to be above a 3, as Adam said, so a 3.5 or higher would qualify. This doesn't. So I'm sure lots of people out there want to go visit the Playboy Mansion. That's fine. Adam's already been there. But there's no reason to go if you're wanting to go out and see some ghosts. So that's my thoughts on it. Any closing thoughts on the Playboy Mansion, Adam, before we end this episode?
No, not really. It's just an interesting place. Like I said,
yeah, it is.
I know you keep laughing at me and saying Adam's been there or whatever. I just remember it being like the Mecca as a young male, like that this is what someone could aspire to. Now, like I said,
aspire to.
Well, yeah. So, all right, hold on. Remember, me and you've talked about this before. What did I want to be growing up? One of the many things
movie
I
director.
wanted to be. A director. And I'm sure people like Brent Radner and Michael Bay, I'm sure they've all been to the Playboy Mansion and been involved with Playmates and stuff like that. And you have this dream that you're going to be this mega stud and everything like that. And being at the Playboy Mansion was the Mecca. You were there with all these beautiful women, all these other people. So, I'm sure that was one of my hey, this would be living the life to be at the Playboy
Mansion. Is that what was driving you to want to be a movie director, so you could go to the Playboy Mansion?
No, it was driving me to be a movie director. I really like movies, I like storytelling, and I really thought that's one to do. But anyway, I just that's the place. So the Playboy Mansion holds. It sounds funny, but it holds a special place in my heart. Just because of
that. Yes, that sounds funny. That sounds absolutely funny. The Playboy Mansion holds a special place in your heart.
It does, but I'm just from those standpoint there. So, but anyway, I know obviously you didn't have those same things. You probably were just like you're probably a bigger Penthouse fan than you were a Playboy fan.
Lord, no. No,
Hustler, was Hustler your jam?
You're taking us off on you're taking us off on a side road now. No, that was Larry Flint. Maybe we'll cover him on a different episode. All right, how can people how can people get in touch with us? Tell us, how immature
So
we are.
we do have an email address out there. It's theghostcasters@gmail.com. If you got any requests for any haunts or any places that you think that we should consider, or any places or any recommendations, or you just want to drop a line and say, hey, y'all are doing a good job or whatever.
Or if you've been to the Playboy Mansion, we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Tell us about your story there. We want to know. I mean, like I said, I hear crazy stories from the 80s and stuff like that. But anyway, so we also have an Instagram account, it's the Ghostcasters. Follow us there. You can send direct messages there. And then, of course, like I said, the biggest way to help us is if you're listening to the podcast, subscribe, like the episodes, tell your friends, put it on your social media, like our accounts and everything like that, so other people can reach that, because this is one of the things we really do. We like to talk about and look at. CG does extensive research every week on these places, so just drop us a like, support us, get out there, let other people know about us so we can keep growing the podcast.
All right. Well said. I think we'll end it here. We'll see you next time for an all new haunting on Ghostcasters podcast.